morning, Damiano.
Morning.
I'm really happy that you join us today for the Makers and Shapers series of EIT Digital. You started the company, Security Matters. What kind of solutions did Security Matters develop? And what's so unique about this?
We were very early in the market. We were specifically focused on protecting critical infrastructure from cyber attacks. So electric power companies, water, oil, of course, and then also manufacturing later on during our maturity, during the more mature time of the company. They were unique because they were built from the ground up to detect unknown events, which is what very skilled attackers could leverage in order to, let's say, penetrate any, let's say, very secure facility. Around that time in 2010, there was an attack called Stuxnet that was revealed to the world, which later on turned out to be covert operations between the US and Israel to basically slow down the Iranian nuclear program. And that was for us the moment in which everybody started calling us because we were the only one with such a solution available on the market.
To build a successful venture, you actually need three essential elements. You need talent, the people to work in your company. You need money to get things bootstrapped. And of course, you need customers. Maybe starting with talents. Did you have enough access to talents? How did you get them?
I would say that having a relationship with educational institution and having access to the pool of students is crucial because, first of all, you always have projects that maybe are too expensive to run internally, but students will definitely pick them up because they're challenging and they can, spend more time and cycles than what an employee would be allowed. And then, of course, you select the best ones and you make them an offer to stay.
The other element is money, getting money to scale the business. You didn't have a lot of investments, especially in the early days. Was that a conscious choice?
It wasn't conscious. We were very early in the market, so there was not a lot of competition. And so we were sort of allowed to make big mistakes in the business. I would say that the fact that we won the grant from the Dutch research organization, STW, was a turning point because, of course, we had 200,000 euro that we could spend on a little bit of hiring new people or buying equipment and so on and so forth. So usually that kind of money costs to entrepreneurs almost 50% of their ownership of the company, or at least up to 50%, and for us was for free. And if I now look at what the Dutch government got back after the acquisition, we're paying taxes.
Customers. Was there a specific launching customer that was crucial for your success?
Back then, one of our line of business was also protecting banks. So Rabobank is a notorious customer of Security Matters. They have been at our side for long. We managed to have access to be able to talk to them about this because, again, they were part of the sort of committee during my PhD time. So there was a committee of stakeholders that were sort of there to advise you, counseling you, and so on and so forth. So that's how we got to know them. We were the only solution among the 10 that were deployed in their data center at the time that triggered on a very specific event that was very important to Rabobank to know about. So that's how it started.
So in 2015, you decided to work with the EIT Digital Accelerator. And this collaboration led to an investment of about 4.5 million euros. How important was this investment at that point in time for the development of the company?
It was a crucial point in time because the competition had heated up. In the meanwhile, there were more than 10 companies in our space at that time, all well funded with $10+ million on their bank account. And so we needed to counter that. We, of course, didn't have $10 million in revenue. So the investment was the only way to push the company to the next stage. And so we worked with the EIT Digital Accelerator to sign up a very important investor, Bosch, which now looking to the acquisition time played a pivotal role in, let's say, creating more competition for the companies that want to acquire us, and ultimately creating more value for the shareholder at the time of the exit.
You have proven that it is possible to build a deep tech company in Europe and do that in a short time and very successfully. What were the challenges you had to overcome to do that in a European setting?
There is definitely a tendency of not taking risk or really hedging risk. It's exactly the opposite of being an entrepreneur. Especially they are adverse to people that have failed before. Whereas in the United States, actually they will say that this is good because you only go bankrupt once, for instance. That's definitely the first challenge. Secondly, Europe is traditionally more, if you look at big countries like France, Italy, Germany, where the GDP is, let's say, the highest in the European Union, they are traditionally manufacturing countries. In those countries, you will most likely find that people are going for engineering job, like mechanical engineering or that kind of areas. And software, while pervasive, is not yet considered the future. Although things are moving because of the digitalization, Industry 4.0, and so on and so forth. The other barrier is that we are less used than the US to scale up companies. It's hard to find people that has basically done it before. My worldwide headquarters is based in San Jose, so the heart of Silicon Valley, and you see that the dynamics are very, very different.
Before Christmas 2018, there was the announcement that Forescout acquired the company. There's a growing concern in Europe that European technology is picked up by non-European actors. And the reasoning is we invest a lot in our universities. When this technology is ready to go to market, you see that it is not always picked up by European investors, but it goes outside Europe.
If I were Europe, I would be proud of this because companies usually buy for a few reasons. One is they want to take out a potential competitor or a serious competitor, which means you develop some good business, or they buy the best in class. So I'm proud that an American company with actually a large engineering team and roots in Israel didn't buy one of my 10 competitors from Israel, but did come to Europe, to Eindhoven, and bought here the technology on which they are betting the next 3 to 5 years of their growth. European bodies should be proud of that. If they're sort of upset that this is happening, they should work on creating equivalent conditions to the one that we see in California or the United States or anywhere else in general, so that it becomes more a favorable environment for European companies to acquire and let's say leverage the technology that was developed here.
Cybersecurity is really a very important topic also in society. There are constant news about attacks, breaks, data getting all over the place, and that leads also to a fact that people get more and more concerned about the enormous deployment of digital technology. And that leads to governments stepping in. So where the makers brought a lot of technology to the market, now the shapers, the regulators, try to step in and protect critical infrastructures, protect the citizens from all kind of digital threats.
There are the two extremes that I have seen, which is basically doing almost nothing and overdoing it. You see that specifically in certain sectors. There is a big regulatory standard that US utilities have to stick to, which is called the NERC-CIP. which very recently finally produced the largest, let's say, fee that a utility had to pay for violating it. I do believe that there must be some minimum requirements that they have to go through. And on the other hand, the standard is so complex and so crazy to be implemented that some companies have decided deliberately not to digitalize their system, so losing competitiveness on the operational side so that they would not have to be under this regulation. Having less cybersecurity in your environment is never a good idea these days. So I think that the government should not overdo it, but at the same time they should take at least a stand on what is the minimum requirement. And of course there will be a debate what is really the minimum requirement.
If we even take it a little bit more at a global level, the 5G discussions have shown very clearly that cybersecurity is becoming a geopolitical instrument almost. Do you experience something for your company that you have to take into account this geopolitical tension?
We were already experienced that as security matters. We have been asked many times to basically prove that our development was not happening in certain countries in the world. It's of course most of the time sort of an excuse that there is no real threat behind having a software developed in a specific country. Attribution is always a difficult topic. Just because the IP address is pointing at China doesn't mean that China is really involved. Having said that, it's clear that countries have developed certain capabilities and are ready to use them and are using those to disrupt or potentially slow down anyway even the economy of another country. Maybe they cannot do this at scale, but at the same time, we have also witnessed an attack against an oil site in Saudi Arabia 2 years ago that basically could have sent the stock of Saudi Aramco to the bottom overnight, and actually have slowed down their public listing of about 2 years. So there are definitely geopolitical situations that can impact big time our economy.
Damiano, it was a real pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.